So, welcome to Ossiana Talks to People. Today we have Michelle Teheaux, who is the author of Untrickled, an amazing blog. Michelle, tell me a little bit about Untrickled.
I started Untrickled because I wanted to have someone talk about. I say that I talk about lifestyle, culture, and politics through the lens of economic inequality. You've got a lot of very wealthy people, a lot of wealthy, powerful people talking about economics, but then you also have people who are much less known who maybe talk about thrifty living or how to stretch a buck, and usually those people don't meet. You also have plenty of really great political writers here, and they talk about all kinds of things. They might touch on economic inequality once in a while, but I think it is very slowly starting to become known by a lot of people that economic inequality is very tightly bound up with all of these things. We have continuously squeezed the lower classes. We are
Hmm.
funneling all the money up. It's not trickling down. It is being funneled up, way up, further than my house, and it's not staying in the pockets of the actual workers. And I think that's really hurting our. I think it's what's ruining our democracy, frankly.
You're right. Most of the things that, and I think I talked about this with Shane, but most of the things that we're seeing right now is just showing love to the billionaire class. And like, it's it's literally a cancer. It acts like a cancer because things that we need just in order to survive, just in order to run smoothly, they're no longer working because literally there's such a huge inequality that any rules that would be very good and or fine for the lower classes no longer will make any sense to the upper class because the upper class now have a they always have like an extra loophole, or it's just like a matter of sizes. Like when Virginia made that, huh? What's up?
I didn't say anything. Keep going.
Oh, when Virginia made that one law where they were pretty much trying to stop bad driving by charging way higher for tickets, that would work as a issue that would make people think twice before speeding in, say, the lower and middle classes if you have like a $3,000 ticket. But if they have, like, if you're a billionaire, $3,000 is a drop in the bucket. It's the
That just
same as
means
$3 to us.
that means it costs $3,000 sometimes to speed, and that's a price some people are willing to pay. I can tell you that when I had little kids and we were living on one income 1,000 years ago, I got a ticket that it sent us it, like was the domino that sent us over the edge. It was really difficult to pay that ticket. I had let my license lapse, and I hadn't realized it. I mean, I wasn't purposely breaking any laws, but I did let my license lapse a little bit. Just hadn't realized it. This was during my mom's terminal illness, by the way. I had other things on my mind, and I was
Oh,
speeding
wow.
a little bit, not very much. I wasn't being an unsafe driver. The road was deserted. My speed had crept up a little bit, and that cop decided to drop the hammer on me, and it really put my household into a tailspin. And not that I'm wealthy now by any means, but if I get a speeding ticket now, it's like, all right, this is an annoyance, but it's not like we're not going to be able to get groceries this week. It's not like that. It's just like this really sucks. So I speed at will now. I don't care. I mean, I don't go crazy, but if I need to speed a little bit, okay, that's fine. I can afford to pay a reasonable ticket. I'm not going to go 100 miles an hour, but the tickets just are not a deterrent. There is some country, one of the Scandinavian countries, I think, that they have. If you're poor, you pay a very little ticket, and if you're rich, you're going to pay a huge amount. They try to make it proportional. So if Elon Musk got a speeding ticket in one of those countries, I don't know, maybe they'd charge him $1 million, something like that. I think that that's an idea worth thinking about, or maybe turning it into community service because everybody would hate to pick up litter at a public park for an hour. That would be a pain in the ass. That would hit us all the same way.
Hmm. I absolutely agree with you. Like, it's interesting that you mentioned the whole sliding scale punishment because I've been an advocate for that for a minute. Like, a person who's shoplifting bread and gets caught probably should only have to pay $2. You know what I mean?
Well,
Mhm.
We would have a lot if we again, economic inequality. That's what it is. You've got some people that are really seriously having trouble buying groceries. There is a food pantry. I live kitty corner from a Catholic church. They have a big food pantry that they greatly expanded in recent years. And on pickup days, there's a lot of people here getting food. And I happen to know there's another one just a few blocks from me through my local township building. I mean, that's two within at least two within a reasonable walking distance where I live. And I know that there's others too. And so if you've got people that can't even afford to buy groceries and you've got other people who have multiple homes, and we like to paint this as the poor are lazy, but a lot of the poor people are, they have a full-time job and a side gig, or they have several little jobs scrapped together because they can't get one better one. And we blame the poor. And sure, sometimes people have made bad decisions. That does happen. Of course it does. But we
Mhm.
also have lots of people who've just been dealt a very raw hand. And this is getting worse and worse because the minimum wage, geez, what is it now? The federal minimum wage, I think it's still under $8. Now, most people are
Yeah.
probably more than that. But just the fact that we haven't raised the minimum wage. We used to talk about $15 as the minimum wage, and that's no longer even enough in some areas. And even a
So
little low cost of living area, you can get a job at Taco Bell for, I think, $17 an hour.
so I actually live in a state where the minimum wage I think is like 15 to 15.25. And I believe New York and California have it higher, same with Hawaii. And whenever I look at how much the minimum wage gets you, Ashley Smith says the minimum wage is $7.13 in Texas, which I've seen those Dallas rent prices. Um, when I thought that Biden would win, I actually was thinking maybe I should look into like moving to Dallas or something like that. Nope, nope, nope. Um,
Well, I do
yeah.
live in a place. I live in a place that I like to call it cheap house landia. And this house I'm in right now, which is a three-story Victorian, very huge, big yard, safe, quiet, walkable area, but also very, very close to, I could walk to municipal and county buildings, the post office, a grocery store, two pharmacies, a park, a coffee shop, many bars and restaurants. All that stuff is walkable. So I've got kind of an urban, as far as walkability, it's more like an urban place, but it's very quiet and safe. And my house, I'm not afraid to say, because this is all public record, I paid less than 100,000 for it. And it's still not worth a dramatically huger amount than that. The house is paid off because this is the fourth house I bought. I've owned one house or another since I was 24. So, and I'm going to be I'm going to be 60 years old next month. So that's a lot of years of making house payments. So I now have no house payment. But if I lived in most of the other parts of the country, I'd never be able to buy a house.
I'm
So,
still like marveling at the fact that you have a three-story house under 100K today. Like, in the house I currently live in, its estimated thing is 750,000, and it's the cheapest house on the block.
wow. No, you walk into my house and you're in an old-fashioned parlor, ruby red parlor with stained glass windows and a fireplace with a cool tile, hearth. And then you've got a living room with like, I don't know what the architectural term for it, but one of those like three windows that poke out. We've seen this in the Queen
Maybe
Anne's.
those.
Yeah. I've got a formal dining room. I've got an eat-in kitchen. I've got, they call it a four-bedroom, but really my bedroom's like, it's like two rooms with like a little, like a oversized doorway in between. I would not consider it to be two bedrooms. I consider it to be one big bedroom. And then we've got this room that used to be a sleeping room. There's like all these windows in it. This was where people would sleep in cold, or excuse me, really hot weather back in the day. There's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven windows in this little tiny room. So it's now my office. And then there's another very standard bedroom. And then upstairs we have a recording studio. And then there's a basement, and there's a garage, and then there's a nice backyard. I mean, you can get a lot of house for not a lot of money in central Illinois. And I always tell people, if you have a remote job, or you're doing gig work or something like that, or you're retired, man, this is the place to be. Peak and Peoria area, Central Illinois. A lot of Central Illinois towns are this cheap.
Like, I'm not sure if anybody's told you this before, but you need to become a real estate agent because you've already sold me.
There's somebody out there, I can't remember her name, but a quick Google search will probably find it. There's somebody out there who became really famous on Instagram or TikTok one, I don't know. Who is from Peoria, and she's like their number one fan. She's telling people, you know, come to Peoria because we've got Peoria has its downsides for sure, but there's a lot of really cool historic districts with very affordable, very awesome houses. There's a street a friend of mine lives on that way back when this was like where all the whiskey barons lived when Peoria was a really wild river town, and he lives in a historic house that's on the National Register. And I'll just say because I'm not identifying him. Back in 2008, he got the house for $250,000, and this house would be worth millions anywhere else. And there's a lot of really cool houses, and there's new houses too. But Peoria has really good medical facilities. That's Caterpillar is there. That's where my friend works, and
Mhm.
you can live a good. People think that you can't live a good life in rural or suburban areas, but like I said, I could go for a walk and be in a bar, restaurant, coffee shop within a few minutes. I could walk to the grocery store, to the pharmacy. I can walk to the downtown, to my post office, my city hall, my county offices. You know, my husband and I can walk to a bar, restaurant in the evening and just walk back home afterward. That is so nice.
So, yeah, I live in Jersey and not the walkable part of Jersey. I live by the Jersey Shore.
Oh, that sounds
It sounds great. The nightlife used to be lit here, like it's no longer anymore. Um, like we have the problem that like so many people wanted to experience the Jersey Shore that they see on MTV, which by the way was a real thing. Guidos were kind of afraid of me back in the day, so while I went to Guido clubs, I never really meshed with them very well. Um, but all of the famous clubs that you saw on Jersey Shore are now gone, replaced by luxury condos. I'm not even kidding.
so. Here we have another case of the wealthy soaking up what used to be a public resource. This used to be a place, and I'll admit, I've never had MTV, but I haven't seen those shows, but I'm aware. You can't help but be aware. I know that it was a thing. So this used to be a place that, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a place where people who were not rich could go and enjoy some nightlife and some beach time and things like that. And now the rich have taken it over.
So it was always rich. The thing is that like in order to be in the New Jersey nightlife, at least by the shore, like you would end up spending like I'd say $5 to $10 for a beer,
Hmm.
like maybe 3 to 10. I'll be generous. Like cocktails were always around $10. And with Guido clubs in particular, like they were for the not necessarily the famous, but the spoiled brat kids of
Okay.
the rich and famous. Like I went to an extremely expensive college. Like it's still expensive. So we had a lot of that intermingling there. And like now it's getting so rich that they don't even want to have clubs there because they're like, okay, it's just going to be trouble.
Hmm.
And all the things that were bringing people to the shore are no longer there. Like Abyss is gone, Deco is gone, the Coliseum is gone, Karma is gone. I'm trying to think of others that were there. There were a couple in Asbury Park too that shut down, though Asbury still has a little bit of a nightlife.
Well, you probably would not recognize what happens in my area as nightlife, but you can go and have a nice dinner and some drinks. There's nothing too crazy here, unfortunately. Or, I mean, I'm kind of past that stage in life, but you probably would find it a little on the boring side compared to what you are used to. But that's the difference between Central Illinois and New Jersey.
I mean, I'm starting to like wind down myself, but I do love a good spa day. I do love occasionally just hitting the clubs and just like dancing the night away. It's a little bit, it's a little bit strange to see the change happen here in Jersey. Actually probably one of the worst examples of this type of thing because it's getting to the point where it's very hard to actually find towns that don't have these stupid luxury condos popping up in them, and they usually will do one of three things to get it: bulldoze nightclubs and or industrial warehouses where American manufacturing jobs used to be, or they'll bulldoze a forest, which we also need because climate change. Or what they'll do, which I find to be very insidious, is they'll buy like six, seven houses on the same block and just scoop them up. And then as soon as all those like houses or warehouses are gone, you'll see like a vacuum of the local culture that needed to be there. Like in Brooklyn on Java Street, there used to be all these underground parties at the pier. Guess what happened? They gentrified the area, and now every single time they try to throw those same parties that were advertised in the condos, like actual documentation, they call the cops.
So that looks differently in your area than mine because there really aren't we don't have the real estate market to build luxury. I mean, there are luxury condos, but not to the extent you're seeing because housing just isn't that lucrative here. So it's a little bit of a different thing, and I imagine in every area of the country you're going to find this looks a little bit differently, but it all is kind of a little bit related in that housing for normal people and the amenities that normal people want gets sacrificed to what the wealthy want. We don't produce goods in this country for everybody. You look at cars, there used to be really cheap cars that poorer people could purchase, but now every car has to have every bell and whistle, which is why my car is a 21-year-old Mini Cooper that is falling apart. And I don't know when I'm ever going to replace it because I don't want one of these really expensive new cars. Like I like a simple little car. I've had almost every car I've ever had has been a stick shift. I like a simple car. I've never had a car that's even capable of hooking to my phone. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for basic transportation. I admit a Mini Cooper is a little bit not so much basic, but I bought it. I bought it when I was living a different life a thousand years ago when I still had a little bit better job. But the thing is, you can't just go out and buy an inexpensive car anymore. Not really. You
Sure.
can only cater to the wealthy. Everything we build, I mean, you've got some fixed costs when it comes to real estate. If you're putting in the infrastructure, why wouldn't they put in something really, really expensive versus something that's modest and affordable to an average family? If why wouldn't they just go ahead and like hit the luxury market because that's what pays more? And it's that way with virtually everything. We just
Hmm.
have abandoned the lower cost items, and everything has to be luxury. And that's great if you happen to be someone with a lot of disposable income. But if you're trying to live on a lower income, then you're looking at a used car, or people do all kinds of things trying to make ends meet. At one point, my son moved back home when he was young for like a couple of years just to catch up on his student loan. He bought a decent car and paid it off. He paid off the student loans. He saved up an emergency fund and money for like furnishing his place. And when he moved out, he was in great financial shape. And he's probably actually in better shape than any of the rest of us. But he needed that like extra couple of years at home to kind of catch up. And if he hadn't had that option, he would not be where he is today because getting a good start matters. And if you
Yeah.
first get out of college or finish your job training or whatever, and the only thing available is really, really, really expensive real estate and really, really expensive cars and really, really expensive everything, how are young people supposed to launch? Then they wonder why young women don't want to have babies. And some
Yeah.
people actually do want to have babies, but they realize they can't afford it. Like, well, what do you expect them to do? They're going to go and live with their parents and start a family? That's not going to happen. I mean, not that's nobody's first choice.
Exactly. Like, I don't think that I think that politicians are aware that this is a problem, but I don't think that they realize how much it's so widespread, you know? Because when you're at that upper echelon, you're hanging out with people who are crazy wealthy.
Bubbles. They're in bubbles.
Hmm.
And that you have Besant, however you say his name, talking about, oh, maybe your parents bought like 10 or 12 houses for their retirement. I'm like, my dad did not buy 10 or 12 houses for his retirement. I will not be buying 10 or 12 houses for my retirement. He just thinks that that's a normal thing. And if you start looking at all of the economic news through the lens of somebody who is middle, working class, or underclass, we see a very different picture than those who have always been pretty well off. People who don't know what it's like to worry that their food might not stretch to the end of the month. People who are not worried about finding affordable rent. People who are not, when their car makes a terrible noise, who are like, start praying, oh God, don't let it be something expensive. I don't have any money to pay for a car repair. Half of America is living in that type of a reality, and half is doing great. You know, they talk about the K-shaped recovery, which is very true, but we've been a K-shaped country since at least the early 80s. And the people
What's
making policy have no idea. They do not know anybody like me, let alone the people who are even struggling a lot worse than I am. They don't know anybody like that.
what's a K-shaped recovery just for the
Oh,
audience and also for me?
oh. Think of the letter K. And then you've got the upper K, which is the wealthy. They are doing great. They're going up and up. That's the top part of the K. Then you've got the people that are not doing so well. They're struggling more and more. Household debt is rising. You still have to pay for groceries. You still have to pay your rent. You've got to keep your car running. You've got to buy clothing for your children, whatever. It's enough. Oh my God, the most incredibly angry thing is I'm going to lose composure here. When they tell poor people, just live within your means. Sometimes your means do not cover your basic expenses. I have never in my life gone into debt for a luxury. Many, many times in my life, I've gone into debt for a necessity. If your furnace goes out and it's cold weather, you go into debt to get a new furnace. You don't save up money for it. If your kid needs to go to the doctor and you don't have money, you don't tell your kid, well, maybe next month. You go to the doctor. You don't People don't always have enough money to meet their basic needs. It's not
Hmm.
necessarily because they're having their nails done or they're buying avocado toast or lattes. Sometimes it's a matter of they're doing their very, very best, but they don't make enough money. But yet, people like that are part of society. They still matter. They're still human beings. They deserve to be able to live. They deserve to have a life. They deserve to not have to spend their weekends driving Uber or something just to try to survive. We are squeezing these people, and a lot of people complain about their taxes, but half of Americans pay no income tax. They do pay payroll taxes. They're paying for Medicare, they're
Hmm.
or Social Security. They're paying they're paying property tax even if they rent because they're paying it through their landlord. They're paying for sales tax. They're paying for all kinds of taxes like this, but they probably aren't paying actual income taxes. They think they are, but they're not. Another layer of society is paying pretty high taxes, and they're really mad about it. And I understand that, but the people who are not paying are the ultra wealthy. The ultra wealthy are not paying many times
Time.
taxes at all. We have set things up that way. Why do you think we set things up that way? Because they purchased their own politicians and they wrote the tax code. And the very ultra wealthy, your doctor pays taxes, but the people who own the healthcare systems, they do not pay taxes. So basically it's the middle class and the upper middle class pays through the nose. The ultra wealthy pays almost nothing.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that like since we're talking about healthcare, it's always fascinating to see the reactions of doctors versus like secretaries when somebody says, "Listen, I can't afford that. Is there anything you can do?" Doctors like they still earn like 100,000 to 300,000 a year depending on the type of doctor that they are.
And more if they're
So
a heart surgeon or an oncologist or something like that.
exactly. So like they're sitting there, they're like they don't see what we see, you know? because they're like, well, $17 an hour, that's just chump change. I'm like, yeah, but it's gotten me through a lot of crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the reality, I mentioned that I'm going to be 60 years old next month. I am no longer hireable. I had a, it's been about 30 years working in newspapers, which pays very poorly, and which I was okay with. It paid poorly, but I'm also a thrifty person living in a low cost of living area. I was willing to do it because I really loved it. And I thought it was a very valuable thing to do to cover the news in your local community. But when newspapers imploded, I just really haven't been hireable. And believe me, I did everything they tell you to do. I had my resume looked at professionally. I did all the networking. I took people out for coffee. I, you name it. All the things they say to do, I did. There's nothing wrong with my technique. Um, the fact is, no one wants to hire somebody who is in their 50s. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that's why I started writing on Medium, writing on Substack. I started writing books. Um, these are the two that are under my actual name, but I also have a whole slew of genre novels that I've written under pen names. I mean, I write a lot, and when I'm not writing, I am making beans and rice. I am making, I am making homemade sourdough bread out of wheat I ground myself. I mean, I hang up my laundry to dry. I am a very thrifty person, and the things I do to save money, they're helpful, but you cannot frugal yourself out of poverty.
You
And
can't.
if you live in a place where rent is going to cost you $1,500 a month, all the beans and rice in the world are not going to help you that much.
Trust me, I know. I used to pay 4 grand a month for rent when I was married up in Englewood.
I can't
And
even imagine that.
like I miss living up north, but I don't miss the prices. Like ideally, like I'll find a guy who wants me to move in with him and wants to start a cat rescue. Like that would be hashtag goals. Like I'm kind of already seeing somebody, simply because, well, my marriage was dead for a long time. It's just that we decided to solidify it. He didn't want to try anymore. He, there's a lot of issues. So, like, I was kind of like, going out with this one guy, and like he has a farm, which I was very shocked that I ended up being like super attracted to him. But like he raises livestock, baby goats.
Oh,
So like I'm like, "Oh, free goat yoga whenever?" "Oh, you actually care about animals. Oh, you also want to help stray cats." Well, hi. Hello there. Like it's kind of shocking how much I'm like into him simply because he's got like that down home earthiness that I'm not used to.
I can't wait to see you as a farm wife. Oh my God, you've got to get chickens too.
What do I do with the chickens?
You collect their eggs. You get a little basket and you go out and you collect the eggs and you put them in the basket. And then you then I guess you do a TikTok on how to cook the perfect omelet or something. I don't know.
I
The
could I could
beginning of
see a lot
window
of
yoga.
I could see a lot of people mistaking me for a trad wife if I do that kind of content. And I'm going to be like, "Oh, you guys are sorely mistaken. Here's my loyal fans."
Well, here's the thing. Some people would say a woman like me who grows her own herbs, bakes her own bread, cooks pretty seriously, blah, blah, blah. And when my children are home, I stayed home. I breastfed them for 3+ years each. I mean, some people would think that sounds pretty trad wifey, but no, 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 no. Um, I hate the trad wife movement.
Yeah.
I think it's great if you like to garden or do needlecraft or, all those things, all those traditional female things. There's nothing wrong with I love the traditional female arts, some of them. I'm not good at sewing or any of that stuff, but, I really do enjoy cooking. I like growing my own herbs. I like puttering around in the kitchen. I like a lot of those things. But do you think I'm going to let any man, even the really amazing almost practically perfect husband I've got. Do you think I'm going to obey any man? That's a big fuck no. That's never happened. That's never going to happen. No, 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 no. And even at times in my life when I've made, I've had times when I've been the main breadwinner, and I've had times when I've made almost nothing. And regardless of who's making the money or not making the money, we did in my world, you do not blame your partner for not having a lot of money, and you also don't worship the partner who makes more money. If my
Yes.
husband had a bunch of money, which he doesn't, but he is the main breadwinner right now, that wouldn't mean he's in charge. It's still my money. Back when I was the main breadwinner, I mean, he's an immigrant. When he came here, he couldn't even legally work at first. He could not by law make any money. I did not expect him to suck up to me because I was making money, such as it was, and he was not able to make anything at all. I didn't get married for money. If I was going to do that, I guess I would. Uh, I think I've aged out of this at any rate, but I guess I would have gotten while the getting was good when I was younger and become an actual sugar baby or trophy wife back when that would have been a thing that I had the characteristics I could have done. But I always wanted somebody I could respect and love and enjoy spending time with. And so I've never chosen a man according to his money. Obviously, my first husband was a teacher. And my husband now, again, he's an immigrant. He had to start all over. So he supports us now mostly. And most years he makes more than me because writing is very feast or famine, as you yourself know. You can be going
Yes.
along. I made $35,000 from one story. And I talk about this all the time, I know, but or not 35. I made $30,000 in 2024, one story on Medium. And I also, I published these two books that year. I had worked on them before. So that year, I actually made more than my husband with his steady job. But in 2025, I made a pretty paltry amount. So I don't feel like I have to do more housework or more cooking now because I'm not making as much money. My husband knows that sometimes I'll make more, sometimes I'll make less. And, we're in it not for the money. I really feel bad for people who get married for money. I mean, or
You earn every cent.
yeah, yeah, that's what they say. If you marry for money, you'll earn every cent.
Like, I know a bunch of people who've married for money. I'm starting to think that my ex might have married for money. But regardless of that, like every single time that someone marries for money and calamity hits, the spouse is nowhere to be seen. The spouse has a million complaints. It's it's fascinating to see the like change in some of these spouses. It's like night and day. And like the way I see it, you can marry from you can marry a rich man or a poor man and still fall in love the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sean is riffing on my ex. He wanted that organic pasta sauce. I mean, to be fair, it's really good pasta sauce. It's just that it's $20 a jar. So,
Or you can be like me and grow lots and lots of basil in the summer, and then every fall harvest your big bushes of basil and freeze enough pesto to get you through the winter, and like have really good pesto all the time. That
ooh,
not free because you have to buy some of the ingredients, but the basil is the most expensive part. Oh my god, I make so much, and then I put it in a freezer bag, like a big Ziploc freezer bag, and I uh, get all the air out and like, have it frozen into like a very thin layer. Then you just break off a chunk and throw it into the pot after you make pasta. It's like the greatest winter food of all time. You can use it as pasta sauce, but you can also use it as a. I like to take it and put it like on pita bread and make like a little pizza. I like to mix it with mayo and use it on sandwiches. I mean, I will like live on pesto.
guys, I'm actually literally drooling thinking about that because I was already kind of hungry. But like, damn, dude, like, and
Get on a
basil's
plane.
like,
Get
huh?
on a plane. Come to Central Illinois. We'll feed you homemade pesto, and
I might.
Then we will walk to. There's a place called Whiskey Taco. We'll walk over there for dinner tonight. And if you have more whiskey than taco, we can just walk home very safely. If the weather were nicer, it's very cold here and there's snow. But I've got a tree house in my backyard. Have I ever showed you my tree house?
Yes, I've seen the photos. Like every time I look at your house, it's like a fairy story type thing. And now I find
Yes,
out about the whiskey taco, dude. Like you're slowly converting me to moving to Illinois.
honestly, small towns get a bad rap, but they're affordable. They're affordable. They're a great place to be for a writer because I know people used to think if you're going to become a writer, you should move to New York City. I could never afford the rent in New York City. I didn't have wealthy parents. I can afford the rent, or again, I can afford to buy a house in this community. This is not to brag, but this is how affordable the houses are. I still own and have almost paid off. I think I owe less than $20,000 on my other house, which my son rents from me, and he pays me a fair rent for it. But that's the house I moved into after my divorce. After my first marriage ended, I sold my. I had one of those '70s quad level, but it was a really nice house too. And I moved to a very affordable small house in the town where I live and work, in the town at the time I worked here. And in 2008, when we bought this house, because I'd remarried, we wanted a little more space. I could not sell that house for anything what it should be worth in 2008. So I started renting it out. And eventually, when my son got old enough, he rents it from me and he's happy because he doesn't want to own a house and he's not even sure what he's going to, maybe he'll get married, maybe he'll move, who knows? He doesn't want to tie himself down. So he's happy to live in one of his childhood homes. And again, he pays me the same amount of rent that he would pay anybody else or that I'd charge anybody else. He would actually probably pay me a lot more if I ask him to. He keeps urging me to increase his rent. But that's how cheap housing is here. Somebody who's a
Wow.
right married to a person whose income has been pretty modest can have two houses. But both of my houses together are not worth as much as a starter house in a lot of areas.
That's impressive still. Like right now, I'm currently thinking about how I'm going to handle buying a house and I think I'm just gonna pump up my IRA with whatever free money I have, and I'm just gonna use the IRA loophole to take a down payment on a house, like most likely a trailer park. Um, yes, they do
Then,
have parks in Jersey.
then you have to
Yes,
read the trailer park rules, okay?
yes, I do. Um, but I figure like life in a trailer will be pretty easy for me. Simply because it's small, it's almost like an apartment, you know what I mean?
Honestly,
And
I lived in a trailer until I was in, I think, seventh or eighth grade. I literally grew up in one. My parents were very young when they got married. They bought a trailer. They lived in it for, I don't know, uh, 12, 13, 14 years, whatever it was. And then they sold the trailer for the same amount they bought it for. And we moved into a house that they built with their own hands, which again is a thing you can do in small towns. You can just buy a lot and build a house on the weekends as you have the money.
yeah, like the more I've been hanging out with people who are not normally my type, the more I've really started to respect farmers and it's interesting because like during my divorce, like it was actually not one but two farmers who really acted like my shoulder to cry on. One is a female farmer, one is a male farmer. And I'm just kind of like, wow, you guys know how to save money. One of them, I'm not sure I'm brave enough to try their form of money saving because they have an apiary, which is for bees.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to get stung.
Well, they have the special equipment. They can show you how to do it. Then you can not only harvest your own honey, but make your own candles.
I know how to do that, and I'm actually quite adept at it.
I bet you are. It sounds like a very witchy past. I tried doing it. My candles were a failure, but I know in theory how to do it. If I spend a little more time doing it, I mean, I could figure it out. I was trying to do it cheaply, and I also thought it was a great idea to uh, melt herbs into the candle, not realizing that as the candle burned down, the herbs would flare up, and it made my house, this was when I had little kids and a home business, made my house smell like it had the world's largest pop party. This was long before it's legal, and I was having all these young moms come to my house and like Great. My house smells because one burning herb smells much like another. Great. I just wasted all this beeswax that I bought from a local bee farmer. But yeah, see. I like to try this kind of thing, though. To me, this is like a good time. I like to do crafty little things, like let's let's make let's make our own little skin cream out of herbs we've grown. Let's make our own candles. Let's bake our own bread. Let's grind our own wheat. Let's build a treehouse in the backyard. We'll invite people over to have drinks in it.
That actually sounds like so much fun. I have a thing for making my own lotions and soaps too. I have
Yeah,
not done it in ages.
one time, somebody was at my house and they were complaining that he had psoriasis or eczema. I forget, but whatever it was, I'm like, I've got something for that. And I'd made some cream out of calendula I had grown myself. It was like calendula, beeswax, olive oil, and I think I put in some like lavender oil just to help the scent be better. I put the calendula in some plantain, not the banana kind, but the weed in your yard kind, and cooked it, in the hot olive oil, not too hot, and then melted in the beeswax, made a salve, and that shit works. It is great. It works great on diaper rashes. It works on allergic reactions, depending on what they are, probably. Um, I've like there for a while. I was like a little dermatologist. Like people would come over and they'd have some little itch or something, and I would just cure them.
So, funny story, that's actually how witches used to be back in the olden days.
Oh yeah,
So, like, you were doing hyper witchy stuff, and you may or may not have been aware that you were just doing the thing.
yeah, and that's the thing. We don't value this. This was all traditional. I mean, witches did it, but any housewife way back in the day, she knew how to grow a few simple things just for like your regular garden variety little medicines. People knew they could make chamomile tea if they're to help their family member go to sleep or something. They may not have as much knowledge as the herbalist, who everybody thought was a witch and maybe was a witch, but women knew how to do little things like this. We knew how to make yogurt and cheese. This was like all traditional female stuff. How to mend a sock. Nobody values this stuff, but this is still valuable stuff to know. And
Hmm.
we have to spend money. You can spend your time or your money. And sometimes I mend something that I could just replace it, but by spending some time mending it, it still works. And that's just as valid to use your knowledge to do things like that. I mean, people can never believe the bread I can make. They can't believe I can make cheese. They can't believe I can make certain little home remedies. Like, none of this stuff is difficult. Women always knew how to do this, and it doesn't make you a trad wife. These are valuable skills. The day may yet come when we'll all be glad to know how to make skin cream or how to make our own yogurt or how to deliver a goat. You might have to learn how to deliver goats. And goat birth. Many years ago, I had a friend who had like a hobby farm out in the country, just a little bit out in the country. My kids used to go there, and they invited us. It was a full moon, and we stayed up really late. That one of their goats, or excuse me, this was actually a lamb in this instance. Their lamb had twin lamb babies, and it was a little bit of a difficult birth. So they brought in the vet who came out, and he had like a whole birthing truck, and he delivered these twin lambs. It was fascinating to see, and like it was actually hard work too. This is not some little happy little trad wife video thing. This was like a life or death thing. He had like this metal loop that he inserted into the birth canal of the sheep, got it around the lamb, and pulled that baby out. Like pulled hard. And the baby was like, "This is fine. I'm fine with this." And because and we watched those twin lambs be born, and I think that's awesome. If I live in the town, but if I was out in the country, I wouldn't have meat animals because my husband is a vegetarian, but I would either raise lambs or goats or miniature horses. Tell me that wouldn't be awesome.
I feel like horses would be very, very fun as long as they're like not taller than me. I
The
always
minute
get very scared by them.
there was someone in my area, I used to pass their farm back when my children were young enough that they would visit their dad. who lived kind of out in the country, we would pass this farm all the time where they had like the miniature horses. And every time it was all I could do to not stop the car, run over the fence, and just like, I love you. Come here, horse. I love you. You cute little baby horse. They were adorable. I would love to have a farm like that.
I mean, in a weird way, I would too. Um, a while further down the road from me, there is a farm that has emus.
Yes.
And at first, I actually thought I was tripping on acid. I was like, am I having a flashback? Man, I thought that I was seeing some giant birds there. What? I was like, oh man, I need to lie down. No, it's actually an emu farm.
That
I
would be,
still have no idea what they do with the emus, but they have them.
I believe that they use the leather and also they sell the eggs. And I have seen, although I haven't eaten it, I guess emu meat is a thing. I might be mixing these up with ostrich. I am not knowledgeable about large birds, but yeah, I'd be up for all these things. I'm not so interested in like raising hogs. Where I grew up, there were a lot of people raising hogs. That is not a lifestyle I'm interested in. But give me all the cute animals. But you have to know that like these cute animals take a lot of actual really hard work and a lot of dirty work. It is not just petting cute little horses. You've got to muck out the stalls and feed them and worry about make sure they've got water in the winter. It's actually hard work. It's not something people should do without knowing what they're getting into. But I could absolutely enjoy that life.
I personally was shocked at how much work having rabbits is, because like they look so cute and you'd think that they don't need much of anything. No, dude, those things are poop monsters. Like
Oh my
my
gosh.
cats poop less than a rabbit.
We had rabbits for a little while when I was a kid, and my dad intended to raise them as meat rabbits, but the problem was the boy rabbit needed some Viagra or something because my dad would put the boy and girl in the cage, and the boy would be like, "Is there a TV I can watch sports on?" And my dad would be like, "Come on, boy!" And the we ended up naming the rabbit Herb, which stood for because the only time we got him to mate with her successfully was on Easter, twice in a row, 2 years in a row. We managed to get him to mate on Easter, and the female rabbit was not into it at all. And you've ever seen rabbits mate? It's the funniest thing. Did you ever see this?
Yes, they do. They go hump 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 hump.
It's like few seconds. He's like a jackhammer for 3 seconds, and then he like falls over, exhausted. And you could just tell you could see that the female rabbit is like, I got
Like,
the rest for this. And so anyway, so we named him Herb, which stood for Horny Easter Raping Bunny.
oh my God,
And
that's
my sister said, "We named our rabbit Herb." And my mom is like, she's like, "Yes, it stands for," my sister's like, "You know what it stands for?" My grandma's like, "What?" My mom's like, "It stands for Happy Easter Rabbit Bunny." So yeah, those rabbits, that was an unsuccessful rabbit raising adventure because the
yeah.
boy rabbit had low testosterone or something. We don't know.
He might have been gay.
He may have been a rabbit. Nobody asked him.
Our cat Monty, who I occasionally try to summon on here with the sound of his favorite treats. Let's see if he's awake, because if he is, he'll come running. We thought for a while. Oh, we got a little pee. We thought for a while that he was gonna be straight because we actually had to take him to the vet for compulsive masturbation. Oh,
Your
here
cat?
he is. And yeah, like he got neutered almost immediately after, but we got a female cat later, and we're like, okay, Monty's probably gonna go hog wild. Nope. The only cat that he's interested in is his twin brother.
Okay, that sounds like something from Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah, like they're not like blood related brothers,
Oh,
but yeah, they look identical because, they're both Siamese cats, they're both flame points. And the only reason that we found this out was because Monty likes to sing a song when he's trying to get it on. and we'd hear "Poop, poop, 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 poop," followed by "Bap" from his brother, followed by Monty. "Ah."
My daughter has a cat named Monty, by the way.
Yeah. What type of cat is it?
Just a cat, just a gray fluffy cat. But the funny thing is, she just combined her household. My daughter went through a really terrible, awful divorce a few years ago. The most unusual divorce you've ever heard of in your life. I won't tell the story 'cause it's not my story to tell, but it is a it would make a movie. So then she eventually met a really nice guy, and they just moved in together. My daughter has 2 children, so they combined their household. They bought a new house, and he had 2 cats, and she has 2 cats, and now they are a 4-cat household. And my daughter has, basically, she would have 1,000 cats if it was up to her. She loves cats.
Kindred spirit. I approve already.
Oh, yeah, you would like my daughter, and like I said, my daughter, she works full time, she's a professional person, but in the years that she was home with her little kids, she was always, she's always crocheting, knitting, she paints constantly, I mean, like, pictures. She's very crafty, she's very into cooking, she's very into making things from scratch. She would have been a very happy stay-at-home type mom. You can't really afford to do that these days anymore. Hi, kitty cat.
Yep,
But
this is Monty.
I won't disturb my cat Cashew, my little three-legged beagle mix. She's in here, but sleeping, and the other one, my other dog, who I don't know what he is, but he's of no discernible breed. He is also having a good sleep in here. In this room, I also have a futon, and it becomes like this sort of doubles as a guest room, but also my dogs consider this futon to be their bed. And while I'm in this office working, they just come in here and snooze. They love it when I'm working. This is their room to snooze in.
I understand that. This is Monty doing his favorite thing, eating a treat. Good boy. Good boy. He's Monty's chubby little baby. But
Yes.
yeah, this is Mr. I'm going to try to hump my brother and then get swatted away and then make a ah sound. So when it
Fortunately,
Mhm.
fortunately, my dogs both appear to be asexual, which is how I prefer it.
I understand that dogs are a lot more very how should I say open about when they're in love.
Yeah, yeah. If you've ever, my dogs have always all been neutered or spayed, but yeah, you hear about dogs that just want to hump everything. And actually, my old dog Ginger, who was a female and was spayed, but she still was. She Ginger did enjoy a good hump session, and you just prayed she didn't do it in front of guests.
I understand that. My friend had a golden retriever named Amber. And whenever like her family would be hugging it out in front of guests, Amber would join in and just start humping them. And you'd just see like her mom just like being through gritted teeth. Amber, stop humping. So going back to the whole thrifty thing,
I was just gonna say, yeah,
like going back to that, like you say that you do your own sourdough bread.
yes.
How?
Back in 2015, when I was laid off from my job as a newspaper editor, I had always wanted to do sourdough, and I thought, well, now's the time to do it. So I just made the sourdough starter. I went to the King Arthur Flour site. They've got a whole lot of how-tos on. They've got a really great site if you enjoy cooking and baking. So I went to their site and I followed the directions for making a sourdough starter. Basically, you wait for the right wild yeast to colonize it, and you just keep changing, refreshing the starter, and keeping it really warm. It's better to use distilled water at first, just to give it every chance. And after a few days, you start to notice that sour scent. You keep discarding part, feeding it, and getting it really good and strong. And I've been using the same starter ever since, and I gave away a lot of it during the pandemic too. And so what I do is I just keep it in a covered container, and in summer, I make sure I usually keep it in the fridge, but this time of year, I usually can keep it on the counter because it's pretty chilly in the kitchen. Because otherwise, you're having to feed and discard it every day, and I don't want to waste it. Or you can do other cooking, but I don't necessarily want to make sourdough muffins or sourdough pita or sourdough pancakes every day. I mean, there's a limit to how much. If I had a house full of children, that would be one thing, but I don't really need to eat all those bread products. So I pretty much just use it for bread for the most part. So that means I keep it in the refrigerator or a cool countertop so it doesn't have to be fed and discarded all the time. And so you just make sure it's well fed. And then I grind my wheat, and I usually do 6 cups of whole wheat and 1 cup of starter, about 2.5 cups of, well, I do about 2.5 cups of hot water with the wheat, and I get that mixed in as well as it'll mix. Then I put in the 1 cup of sourdough, and I put in some salt. And then I usually just do this in a KitchenAid, but you can do it by hand if you want to. Um, Sometimes if I want the bread to be a little bit more tender or to last longer, I'll add in a glug of either olive oil or a couple tablespoons of cold butter and work it in. That does make it keep a little bit longer, but really all you need is the flour, the sourdough, and the salt and some water. And I give it a couple of stretch and folds, which you'll have to look on the internet to see how to do that. Yeah, just to like help develop the gluten. I put it in a greased bowl, and then I leave it in the refrigerator for like 2 overnights usually, and then I bake it. I get a cast iron Dutch oven, put it in the oven at 500 degrees. I get it good and hot. I've already shaped and had another rise for the bread. I slash it with a lame, a sharp knife will do. Put it in the Dutch oven, put it in the oven, bake it for 45 minutes at 450.
Mm.
For the last 7 minutes, I take off the lid and let the crust get a good hard European crunchy crust, because I'm trying to imitate European breads. It falls short, but it's as close as I can make it. And it is really good. My husband will live on this stuff. Of course, he's Dutch, so he really loves his bread. And he's not a fan of American bread.
Yeah, American bread is unusual because one, you can taste the preservatives in it a lot of time,
Hmm.
and two, it always comes in the same shape and the crust isn't actually crusty per se.
The crust, there's a reason why kids want their crust cut off. It's like because American bread crust does suck, but the crust in my bread does not suck.
Exactly. Do you think that there's going to be like a growing market for like micro farms, stuff like sourdough bread starters, things like spores?
I actually just saw a news story in the New York Times, I believe. I know that's paywalled, but anybody who's a member could get it. And apparently, that's a whole growing thing, especially women who either are wanting to stay home with their kids for a few years, or in some cases, these were like corporate lawyers that used to make a lot of money and just got burnt out. Some of them started making sourdough at home. You can get a cottage license in most states,
Huh.
maybe all of them, and you can make up to a certain amount of bread. You have to put a label on there saying what the ingredients are and a disclaimer saying this was made in a non inspected home kitchen. But I mean, bread is a pretty low risk thing. It's baked at a very high temperature. It's not the same as if you were, selling like cream soups or something where you'd worry, is this safe to eat? Does she follow good? Even if you don't follow really great food handling, uh, something that's been in a 400, 500 degree oven is going to be safe. So,
Yeah,
low risk thing. So they would like put out a thing saying like, "Hey, I'm going to have bread available on Tuesday at noon," and people would sign up, and she'd collect their money, which is easy to do these days. There's all kinds of websites that make this easy, and then she bakes the bread and she puts it out on her porch in like a big wicker hamper, and people come by and pick up the bread. She doesn't have to do anything. It's just she assumes no one's going to steal a whole bunch of bread. And some people are making very good money at this. Some people have even like built a commercial kitchen like in their basements and have employees. But some people just like bake once a week, and it's like a side gig for them. And I thought about, heck, I could do that. Um, there's a possibility of doing this because I get the impression that you used to be able to make fairly decent money doing Instacart and Uber and things like that, but I hear that not so
it's
much.
not the same.
But if you can make your own sourdough bread and sell it through an app, or or you don't have to go all the way to having a big kitchen. You can just once a week or twice a week bake bread. You could also be baking other things. I mean, I bet those people that buy bread from you would also buy chocolate chip cookies or whatever.
Very true. I've noticed at local farmers markets, there's always like a bunch of produce, usually by like the mom and pop farms that are near me. And yes, my area does have farms. It's kind of shocking for both me and people who don't live anywhere near here, but they always the farm fresh eggs, the farm fresh like micro herbs, those are
Okay.
also very popular.
I have trouble
And
doing that, and that would be very easy to do. That is not difficult to do. That's really easy stuff.
I figure if you can grow pot, you can probably grow micro herbs, you know?
I would think growing pot is a lot harder than growing microherbs. And the great thing
Uh,
is you can get into it with like almost no money.
yeah,
This is not an expensive thing to set up.
it's really not. Like pot's surprisingly resilient. That's why I think they call it weed. But like lately I've just been seeing so many people doing like underground, like not just pot, but other people, like other things like microgreens I've seen apples, like apple trees, cherry trees. I've seen people just get like a couple chickens, just for the eggs alone, not even the meat. And I've seen it even in New York City.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, somebody I knew had bathtub chickens.
I would want my chickens outside, but hey, there's someone actually you can keep chickens legally in my town. And there is someone, my husband actually works with them, which we found out by accident. So we would always walk by their little they just live on a city lot, but they have turned most of their farm, or excuse me, most of their yard into a really productive garden. They even grow they have green beans growing up the fence of their yard. They have all kinds of tomatoes. They've got corn. They've got all kinds of vegetables and herbs, and they have a small chicken house in the middle of this.
Hmm.
And so we walk by and like, I talk to the chickens as I walk by. Hey, chickens! And yeah, they've got like they have a whole thing full of chickens. They must have like about a dozen chickens, and this is just an ordinary town lot. It's not even that big of a lot.
Yeah, up in Jersey City, I noticed a new trend is to have grapevines crawling up their fences, and then they'll put like uh I forget what they're called, but bars over their fences so they
Like
kind of have
well,
like shade.
like a pergola.
Yeah, pergolas, that's what they're called. And you'll
I
just
have a pergola.
see, hmm?
My pergola, I won't be growing any grapes because number one, they're toxic to dogs, and I've got two dogs, and one of them's a piglet that would probably eat anything like that. But the other reason is that we enclose the pergola in the winter because I also have a goldfish pond in there.
Oh,
So
that's beautiful.
we've got a goldfish pond and like a little mini patio area with some seating there. And then in the winter, we enclose the whole thing. And then also in winter, on days when it's not terribly, terribly cold, if you've got some sun, it can be pretty warm in the greenhouse. And I actually go out there to avoid my winter depression. I'll go out there and sit by the goldfish pond, which we have all enclosed in plastic in winter. But in the summer, of course, we take, as soon as the weather's nice, we take the plastic off. We've got a big pergola with a pond and patio, and it's really pretty awesome.
That sounds amazing. Like, honestly, you're living the dream. And it's interesting to see, like, people living the dream in this day and age with financing being the way that it is. So I just got to give hats off to you. This was a pretty cool conversation.
I dug that goldfish pond myself, and parts of it are a little more than 3 feet deep because I wanted to overwinter fish in there. So yeah, that was, and there's a bunch of old tree roots in my yard. Oh my God, it was actually very, very, very hard, sweaty, hard. It was extremely hard work, but I dug it myself. And then a couple of years later, my husband helped me enlarge it just a little bit, but I've done almost all the work myself. He built the pergola, the tree house, and a little cover that goes over part of our deck so that we can have like some shade and little party lights and things like that. He built all that with scrap wood, free scrap wood, and part of our kitchen
Wow.
built with scrap wood. He built like our kitchen table out of mostly scrap wood. Some of our plate rail, some of our cabinets he built from free scrap wood that he gets free from work.
Dude,
So
I think you figured out life. I'm just going to tell you right now. I think you figured out life.
well, if I had a lot of money, I could have hired someone to landscape my yard and remodel my kitchen and all these other things, or turn my attic into a recording studio. There's no money for any of that stuff in my life. We have to do stuff ourselves. And it takes a ton of time, I won't lie. Every time we start one of these projects, it's it may not cost us much money, but it's very time consuming. And I spent a lot of time digging that goldfish pond. My husband spent a lot of time laying the pavers for the patio areas. The tree house, which he built himself from his own design, it's really awesome, but he spent a lot of time on it. A lot.
I mean, that's kind of what hobbies do, right?
Yeah.
Anywho,
He's got too many hobbies. He has no time to get them all done. He works full time and he records music in the attic and he records someone's podcast and edits it. And he has all this stuff to keep up in the backyard. And then he'll just decide one day to start some project. I'll be like, do you think you had time for that? You already you already don't have any time. Like, what makes you think you've got time to do this project? He talked about remodeling our kitchen again to get a wood burning stove, and I saw one that's like this beautiful red cast iron red enamel wood stove.
oh wow.
But to put it in there, we would have to do some pretty significant work to our kitchen because you've got to have a place to vent it, of course. And the way the world's going, who knows? It might be nice to have a source of heat that's not dependent upon the grid. But he's like, yeah, we'll just change this wall. We'll close up this window so that because there's all the windows in there. We'll move this, we'll move that, we'll build this, we'll build that. I'm like, really? You think you've got time to do this, huh? And you think that we have time to keep that wood stove going? I'm not going to lie. I would love to have that wood stove going. I would cook on that wood stove. I would go back in time on that wood stove. It's gorgeous. It would be awesome. It's also a lot of work. There's a reason why people move to electric stoves. They're a lot easier. But part of
Yeah,
me is tempted. I'm not sure that's the end of that story. We're tempted. We're very tempted.
I mean, I've seen how much work it takes to just keep up a wood stove, and hats off to the people because I don't know how to do half of that stuff.
Well,
And, it,
back in
and
the day, you learned from your parents, but now you just go to YouTube and look it up.
yep, YouTube is a very good parent.
Yeah.
Anywho, I'm gonna have to jump off. I have another appointment. I'll be talking to everybody later. This has been Michelle Teheaux.
I'm not sure we got into politics as much as I thought we would, but we did get into chickens and goats, and it's just as good.
Honestly, I just wanted to have something about like how people can cope with the economy, and you provided that. You gave solutions.
You moved to Central Illinois. You learned how to do your own yard work and your own remodeling, and you do side gigs like in my husband's case, recording music, and in my case, writing everything there is to write.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. We got to do this again.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
Sounds good.
All right.
Crone
Bye.
cocktail hour next time?
Yep.
Sounds good. Okay. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.